greatest duels ever. Sasaki Kojiro versus Miyamoto Musashi, 1611. Miyamoto Musashi was a legendary swordsman revered as the strongest in all of Japan at the time. He was especially famous for his Niten Ichiryu style, a two-sword technique. His closest rival was Sasaki Kojiro, a man feared as the demon of the western provinces and known for his swallow reversal technique. It was inevitable that the two men would cross paths. In April 1612, the two rivals agreed to duel on the island of Ganrujima to put their skills to the test. As a psychological tactic, Musashi arrived 3 hours late to the duel.
Ah, where is he? I've been waiting for hours and my phone is running out of battery. There you are. Finally, we can begin. It is good that you throw your scabbard to the ground. You will not be needing it anymore. So you brought your sword, eh? Not bad, not bad. You see, I thought a little bit outside of box. Ha 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 ha! You're really going to fight me with a wooden sword? Ha ha ha! This is almost too easy. Is that a gun? No.
The two men drew their respective weapons. Musashi cleverly positioned himself with his back against the sun, so Kojiro had to deal with blinding light in his eyes. Kojiro was still irritated at being made to wait for hours, and on top of that, he was insulted. He impatiently stepped in and performed his swallow reversal, swift enough to cut down a swallow in flight. According to some accounts, his attack narrowly missed Musashi's head by inches. Either way, Kojiro's attack failed to connect. It was Musashi's turn. Musashi swung his wooden sword, struck Kojiro's head, and knocked him to the ground. Musashi swung his sword a second time, smashing Kojiro's ribs and puncturing his heart, killing him. Musashi left the island victorious, but his name and Kojiro's are forever etched in history as two of the greatest swordsmen who ever lived. Today, statues depicting the two locked in eternal combat stand on Ganrujima. Jacques le Gris versus Jean de Carrouges IV, 1386. In 14th century France, there were two knights, Jacques le Gris and Jean de Carrouges IV. They were neighbors and good friends, and both were squires in the service of Count Pierre d'Alençon. In fact, Jacques even became godfather to Jean's son. They were really close. They likely had a Minecraft server together too.
Oh my gosh, I found diamonds. Really? Where?
However, they became rivals when Jacques became the favorite of Count Pierre, leaving Jean isolated. When Jean's wife and son unexpectedly died from disease, he went on a 5-month military campaign instead of going to therapy. Upon his return, he married a woman named Marguerite and made amends with Jacques. Jean departed on yet another campaign to Scotland, and when he came back, he found that Jacques had substantially increased his influence with Count Pierre. Not long after, Jean accused Jacques of raping his wife while he was in Scotland. Jean went straight to King Charles VI to file a case, who in turn deferred the decision over to Parliament. Parliament eventually found the evidence inconclusive and authorized the duel that both sides wanted. The duel was an extremely public event. King Charles even ordered that the duel be delayed so that he could attend. On September 29, 1386, the two men faced each other in a jousting arena in Paris.
Jacques! Jean!
I am in the wrong arena. They mounted their horses and charged at each other repeatedly, each time landing only glancing blows, but they broke their lances on the third exchange. On the fourth exchange, both men took out their axes and killed each other's horses. Now on foot, they took out their swords. Jacques, the stronger of the two, stabbed Jean in the thigh. Jean managed to pull Jacques to the ground by dragging his helmet. Jean then mounted Jacques and began stabbing him repeatedly. When he failed to penetrate Jacques' armor, Jean smashed open Jacques' faceplate, exposing his head and neck.
Admit it. Say you did it. I didn't do it. Lies. Admit it. Damn you. In the name of God and on the peril and damnation of my soul, I am innocent.
Jean celebrated with the crowd and his wife. He was awarded several thousand livres of gold, a royal title, and appointed personal bodyguard to the king. Andrew Jackson versus Charles Dickinson, 1806. Future US President Andrew Jackson had a public feud with a man named Charles Dickinson. Both were fellow plantation owners and horse breeders, and the two developed a bitter rivalry. The flames were fanned further when Charles accused Jackson of behaving dishonorably regarding a horse race. Jackson was entitled to $800 after some pre-race preparations went awry. He got into an argument with the man who owed him money, Irwin, about how the money should be paid out. Charles joined in and began publicly heckling Jackson, which extended far beyond this small altercation. Like the little rascal he was, Charles put out an ad in the local paper calling Jackson a worthless scoundrel and a coward. But when Charles called Jackson's wife Rachel a bigamist, it pushed the future president over the edge. Only a duel would satisfy him now. The two men met at Harrison's Mills in Kentucky. Dickinson was said to have been an excellent shot. To counter this, Jackson and his second, Overton, devised an extremely effective strategy. Guy with a stupid last name fires first.
What? What the heck?
Okay, I got you right where I want you.
Hey, wait a second. This feels illegal somehow.
No, this is the rules. You better stay still.
Hey, this shirt's a rental.
Jackson walked away from the duel victorious, and he was not prosecuted for killing Dickinson. However, the bullet he was struck by remained permanently lodged in his chest, causing him chronic pain for the rest of his life. If Jackson were alive today, his biggest opponent would be a metal detector. Lady Almeria Braddock versus Mrs. Elphinstone, 1792.
Good day, Mrs. Elphinstone. Are you ready for tea?
Why, yes, I've been looking forward to it all morning.
I say, Almeria, you look more mature with each passing day.
Why, thank you, Mrs. Elphinstone. I know I exude a more adult charm now.
Yes, you look to be quite over 30. 60 even.
What did you say to me, punk?
Mrs. Elphinstone spoke of Lady Almeria's youth and beauty in the past tense, insinuating that Lady Almeria appeared over 60 years old. Lady Almeria, insulted, challenged Mrs. Elphinstone to a duel. The two women made their way over to London's Hyde Park, took 10 paces, and drew pistols on one another. Both their shots missed. Instead of choosing to end their dispute there, the women chose another path.
All right, let's end this with swords.
You're on. Okay, stop. I'll write you an apology letter.
And that was that. Mrs. Elphinstone apologized for insulting Lady Almeria and wrote a 500-word essay about why she was wrong. The two became good friends, and the touchy subject of age was never touched upon again. John Ridout versus Samuel Jarvis, 1817. John Ridout and Samuel Jarvis were both members of the family compact who commanded significant power in northern Canada. Their fathers held positions of power, so both sons were poised to continue their legacies. Both men were enlisted in the army during the War of 1812. John was a midshipman on the Royal George and an office clerk. On the other hand, Samuel was a member of the 3rd Regiment of York Militia. He saw combat in the battles of Detroit, Queenston Heights, and Stony Creek. When the war ended, he became a lawyer. The odds seemed stacked against John from the beginning. While working at his brother's law office, John visited Samuel's practice, and the two argued about something seemingly work-related.
Tomato is a fruit.
Yes, John, tomato is a fruit, but it's functionally a vegetable.
Ah, I'm right.
Would you put a tomato in a fruit salad?
Well, whatever the argument was about, John exited the law firm angrier than ever. The next day, John attacked Samuel with a metal club. Local law enforcement had to separate them. Eventually, to settle the score, John and Samuel agreed to a duel. They met each other at a farm, stood back to back, and prepared. Samuel's second, Henry, started the count of 3.
1, 2. Did you say 3?
Hey, what the heck?
Hey, sorry about that. I hope you can forgive me.
John and Samuel's seconds discussed what should happen.
Okay, we both agree that Samuel should take his shot. John, get back over there. Okay, let's try this again. You shot me.
You should have gone for the head.
John was losing a lot of blood very quickly. In his final moments, he reportedly forgave Samuel and asked his mother not to seek vengeance. Samuel was arrested but not tried for John's murder. Boo Boo versus Guo Si, 192. The Battle of Chang'an took place toward the end of the Han Dynasty, shortly before the famous Three Kingdoms era began. Dong Zhuo, the tyrannical warlord, had seized control of the imperial court in the capital of Luoyang, but a coalition of rival warlords forced him to flee to Chang'an, where he made his new capital. Lu Bu, Dong Zhuo's adoptive son and bodyguard, was persuaded by Wang Yung to kill his foster father, which he did. For a short time, Lu Bu and Wang Yung controlled the center government. When Dong Zhuo's subordinates Guo Si and Li Zhu returned from Chang'an, they found Dong Zhuo dead. They ultimately decided to attack the city. Guo Si led an attack on the city's north gate where he encountered Lu Bu. Lu Bu was feared for his physical strength and supposedly imposing stature.
Go see, glad you could make it.
What the heck, Lu Bu? You killed Dong Zhao? He was like a father to you.
Yeah, but what do you expect? I'm Lu Bu. I betray everyone I meet.
What?
Hey, don't worry about it. Okay, Guo Si, I see your army. So, let's make things simpler. Instead of wasting our men's lives, how about you and me tango? Mano a mano.
We start at a count of 3. 1, 2.
I didn't say 3, but I'm Lu Bu. The duel was short and swift. Lu Bu pierced Guo Si in the side with his spear, instantly ending the duel. As Lu Bu returned to his camp, Guo Si was carried off by his men, and he managed to survive his wounds. Lu Bu and Wang Yun would eventually abandon Chang'an, as Guo Si and Li Jue's forces were too formidable for them to fend off. Hopefully, Lu Bu never betrayed anyone ever again. Alexander Hamilton versus Aaron Burr, 1804. Okay, theater kids and show-tune-addicted millennials, you knew this was coming. Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr were two of the most influential figures in the post-revolution United States. Hamilton was a Federalist, while Burr was a Republican. It's a tale as old as time. The two had been bitter rivals for several years, but things escalated in 1791 when Burr snatched away a Senate seat from Philip Schuyler, Hamilton's father-in-law. Later, during the election of 1800, Hamilton helped Thomas Jefferson cinch the election over Burr. At this point, Hamilton's rivalry with Burr was well documented. He wrote several letters accusing Burr of several crimes and questioned his integrity.
His hair, whack. His clothes, whack. His political stances, whack. His beliefs, whack. The way he waits for it, whack. Me, I'm as tight as fuck.
Burr, aware that Jefferson would inevitably drop him in the 1804 election, decided to run for governor of New York instead. Again, Hamilton publicly campaigned against him, causing Burr to lose to Morgan Lewis. Things escalated further when Republican Charles Cooper published a letter in the Albany Register detailing Hamilton's fiery words attacking Burr's character.
Hamilton, Mr. Burr, sir, you'd better take back what you said. A dangerous man and one who ought not be trusted with the reins of government?
And what of it? I meant it. Every word of it.
And what's all this about my hair being whack?
Every word of it. Hamilton refused to retract his words. As a last resort, Burr challenged Hamilton to a duel. Controversially, Hamilton accepted. At about 6:30 in the morning, the two men, accompanied by their seconds, met each other in Weehawken, New Jersey. Hamilton and Burr walked several paces forward, turned around, and fired at each other. Hamilton's bullet whizzed several inches above Burr's head. Burr's bullet struck Hamilton in the lower abdomen. Burr was ushered away while doctors rushed over to tend to Hamilton. Hamilton was later brought to the house of William Baird Jr., where he died while surrounded by his family. This is perhaps the most famous duel of all time, and for good reason. Perhaps the world was wide enough for both Hamilton and Burr.